Hi everyone, I am Donna Reed and this is Donna Reed Talks Voice. And today I am working with Julia, who I've not met before. Hi Julia.
Hi.
And you're in Germany?
Yes.
Yes, great. So tell us a little bit about yourself, about your singing. What kind of singing do you do?
At the moment I'm studying vocal pedagogy in Germany, and there, like, my main subject is classical singing. So at the moment I mostly sing classical music, but like on the side I still like to sing musical theater and some pop stuff. Yes.
Wonderful. You should be able to do both, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Good, 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 good. Are you a soprano? Do you sing soprano?
Yes, I would say lyrical soprano. Yeah.
Okay, okay. And then with the musical theater stuff, do you do any of the belty stuff, any of the more chest voice stuff?
Yes, I would say so. Before I sang classical music, I sang like a lot of pop and musical theater, and the classical thing was like afterwards. So, yes, I would say I also sing belty stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so what right now would you say is the most challenging thing for you, something that you'd like to look at or work on? Is it more of the mixie belt? Is it more of the classical high notes or whatever?
Yeah, I think the classical high notes would be the most interesting part for me.
Okay, great. Oh, great. So I just need to see where you're at and what you're doing, and then we'll just take it from there. So
Yeah.
usually, if you've seen any of my episodes before, you know I like to start people just breathing. So if you just exhale and then inhale as you bring arms up and exhale, and as our listeners are watching, go right ahead. They could do it along. So it's always good to breathe. So we could all of us while we're watching, inhale, exhale, get that rib cage moving. Because what we don't want is a tight rib cage and another one. Great. And it just feels good to do it, right?
Yeah, feels
It
nice.
should. All righty. So I don't know your voice at all. So I'm going to start you the way I normally start people I've never worked with before. I'm going to do those three notes. Can you hear the piano okay?
Yes.
I'm going to do those three notes with an ooh and just see where you're at. Great. Yeah, well, that's easy. That's wonderful. Let's take that all the way down and see what happens. Great. And you let the bottom note do whatever it wants to do. Don't force anything, whatever it wants to do. Great. So obviously it goes into some kind of a chest voice on the bottom. Obviously it's some kind of a head voice on the top. Beautiful. All right. So let's just see what the chest voice is doing down here, one note at a time on an ah, and just sustain the ah. And let's see what we have.
Ah.
Yep.
Ah. Ah. Ah.
Great. That's also a very free, very easy, not a problem. All right, so you've got a really good head voice, you've got a really good chest voice. Now we just have to see how they work together. So let's do this. Just plain old ah, up and down, whatever it wants to do.
Ah.
good, good, good. All right. I'm debating. Do I go up by half steps or do I add a note? You know what? I'm going to add a note. So far, so good. Now, how did that feel on top? Did it feel free? Does it feel like it's compromised a little? It's okay?
I just feel that the vibrato is a bit shaky, so I think it's not as open as it could be.
Okay, now I did hear that there was a very different vibrato on the top note than the other ones.
Yes.
Not necessarily a bad thing. I'm not sure. I can't say right off the bat, oh yeah, that one's freer, that's not freer. I don't hear that it's constricted, but I do hear that it's different. So we have to explore that and see what's doing with that. Now, you heard that it was a different vibrato and it was doing that, but it didn't feel constricted or tight in the throat, did it?
Maybe not as open as the other ones, but I'm still a high note, so I don't know. Yeah.
Fair enough. So not as free, but not really constricted tight.
Yes, I would say
Okay,
that.
fair enough. All right, so let's explore this. We're going to do this. Do this with an oo staccato, just quick up and down.
Ooh, 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 ooh. 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 Ooh, 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 ooh. Ooh, 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 ooh.
Okay, so those are not bad. They could be a little bit freer. Um, I'm going to have you do it this way. Repeat the staccato on top. So, and what I want you to do is I want you to tune into your body and see what is your body doing to have that staccato happen. What's moving, what's not moving? Does something feel tight? Does something not feel tight? Just tune into your body, see what happens. That was excellent. And what did you notice in your body? Anything? And maybe you didn't notice anything.
I think just a little, like in my stomach, little, I
Bounce,
don't know.
bounce, bounce.
Yeah, bouncing.
Yeah, which is exactly what should happen. Now, what's really good, what I'm noticing is that a lot of people, when they do staccatos, they get too involved with their rib cage going, huh, huh, huh. You're not doing that. It's just a little kind of bounce, bounce, bounce here, which is great. That's exactly what you want. Now, the reason I'm doing that is when we did the other one, the top notes were not quite as free. So I was thinking, it's nothing that you're really doing here. You know, I don't. You opened up the ooh. That seemed to be going very, very well. So I just want to make sure that your body is energizing that note as it should. So when
Mm-hmm.
we repeated the top note, I think it did that. And then again, bringing your awareness to your body with that. We're going to do the next one the same way. See, that's excellent. That's really good. Yes, and I'll tell you what I liked about that. Did you hear the first note on top did a little boop?
Mm-hmm.
That was
Yeah.
the best thing because what happened with that same note before, it was almost a little bit heavy. It was almost a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
the chords a little bit too thick, and
Mm-hmm.
that then it went somewhere else. That's
Yeah.
exactly what you want. Now that's interesting. I'm going to explain this for my listeners. When that happens and we're singing, usually we freak out. We're like, oh, I can't have that happen. That's terrible. Oh my God. But in this case, functionally speaking, what happened is that the vocal cords found a better way to sing that note. So because that little disruption happened, then the vocal cords got a little bit thinner and it was better for what you did. So that just showing people sometimes when it's weird, it's an okay thing. Now, if that were to do something weird and then after that it felt constricted or tight, obviously then that's not the one we want. But that was excellent. We're going to do one more, same way, and again, keep tuning into your body. Oh, brilliant. Brilliant, yeah. Yeah. And this is really one. I always say one more, then I go an extra. Yes, even better. That did another little flip to something else. And as one should, you're doing it either consciously or instinctively. You're opening up the ooh and letting it go somewhere else on top. Now, that was the highest C. That was very, very good. Now that we've established those freely, what's most difficult, because you said you wanted to look at high notes, what's most difficult about going to the high notes up there is when we have to sustain them. Because once we have to sustain them and sing that note longer, I think it's usually a body thing because our bodies say, oh, okay, I'm going to try to support it or whatever, even unconsciously. That's why I like the staccato when it works. Some people, the staccato doesn't work. With you, it's working beautifully. So we're going to do the same thing. Which one are we going to do? We're going to do this one. Then I want you to sustain it a little bit, but again, really tune into your body. So your body will go bounce, 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 and then when you sustain it, if you feel your body's getting tight, you can move around a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So because what you want, and you have to figure this out kind of on your own, how do you energize that top note without under energizing, without trying to relax, because you can't relax, but without pushing so hard that your body gets tight. So we're going to try to get it through the staccato and just hear what happens. So the same thing, ooh, 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 and then sustain it a little bit, and then come down legato, and let's see what happens. Brilliant. Now that's the same note. I believe it was the G. I'd have to go back and check, but that was the same note that had that funny little vibrato when we did it originally. So that was certainly much more efficient. And I'm guessing that felt better.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's go a little bit higher with it and see what happens. Same thing, same approach. Fabulous. Yeah. Now this next one is the same one that did that little bloop when we did it just the staccato. So know that something different might happen. Yeah. And there wasn't even a little blip. It just did it. So let's be surprised. This next one will probably be different. How did that one feel?
Good, I would say it's just for me. I would say it's new that it feels so thin, maybe, and I think it's a good thing. But
Yes.
that's new.
I'm glad you said that because I get that a lot from my students. When it's freer, when it's more on the upper side, and this is very definitely on the upper side, it's not heavy at all. They'll say, oh, but it sounds so thin. It seems so thin, but it's not. Anybody who's listening to this on the outside, they hear, I mean, you're obviously a lyric soprano. It's not a Brunhilde, but it's a nice, full lyric soprano sound. There's a lot of depth to it. And most importantly, you hear the upper harmonics, and there's that beautiful vibrational pattern on top that tells you how efficient it is. So one of the things that, as people are listening to this, and we're going to go to the next one, I want everybody who's listening to really listen to what the vibrato is doing. I find that most people, especially with themselves, they don't listen to really what is the vibrato doing. So the pattern that's happening, the vibrational pattern that is happening with your voice up here is really, really, really good. as my late husband used to say, as Cornelius used to say, a perfect vibrato is where the sound is lively. You hear this lively sound, but you don't hear whoa, 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 whoa. You almost don't even hear the wave. And that's what's happening with your sound. I mean, obviously it's vibrating, but you don't hear whoa, 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 whoa. It's just a nice, lively, kind of shimmering tone. But let's see what happens with the next one, because again, every half step is just a little bit different. That's brilliant. That's really, really good. Let's try the next one. Yes. And that very definitely went somewhere else and did something else.
Yeah, yes.
Excellent. You know what? We're going to try the next one. Just see what happens. Very good. I'm going to have you do it again because it wasn't quite as efficient as the one before.
Yeah, I'll say so. Yeah.
Different. And yeah, exactly. I'm just going to have you do it because I think the muscles will figure it out for you. You don't do anything differently than you just did. I think the muscles just need to do it again and say, you know what? I'm not quite sure. I'm going to try it again. Exactly. Exactly. Now, I could have had you do it on an ah, but I like the way the ooh on the bottom is setting up the top note, even though the top note is obviously some kind of an ah. Now, that was the C sharp.
Mm.
That was very good. Now, those sound like very easy high notes to me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. But it's very good for me because like when I practice by myself, of course, like as an opera singer, you always think that the sound needs to be like kind of big, and I would never go into these kind of sounds, but I have the feeling that they feel very good and very easy, and that's great.
And I'm glad you brought that up because this is a real, real important point. What we hear on the inside is obviously not what everybody's hearing on the outside. And more often than not, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't listen to ourselves. We absolutely should listen to ourselves. But more often than not, when the sounds are big and full and well resonated, on the inside, we don't hear them as big and full and well resonated. And not just with opera singers, but with every genre. You know, my belters who belt, they want to go wham, they want to belt it more. And, it's not belty enough when it is. So, what I always suggest, since fortunately now we can record ourselves and listen back, you really should, especially when you think it's not big enough, you should record yourself and listen back objectively. Or you could even have, and I know it's difficult when you're practicing to have a friend there or whatever, but, sometimes it's good to have an outside ear and not a teacher, but an outside ear saying, no, 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 that's really big. That's quite good.
True, yes.
I've had that now, of course, since most of my lessons are virtual, I don't have people listening in on other lessons. But in the past, or when that happens now, when somebody comes in at the tail end of another person's lesson, and then I try to convince the person who's having the lesson, yeah, that's really loud enough. And they say, oh, I don't think so. I have a witness. And they say, oh, yeah, oh my gosh, yes, and that's loud enough.
Yeah.
But we don't ever think it's loud enough. Those louder than that, you never want to sing. I mean, and your key is exactly what you said. Your key is it feels so good. If it feels that good, there has to be something right about it.
Yeah.
So that's excellent. But now, after we did that, we're going to go back down here, and I'm going to have you sing ah on the bottom and see what happens. That's not what I wanted, even though that was wonderful.
Sorry. Oh, like that.
I just wanted the one note. So, and I'll tell you why. That was beautiful. I'm glad you did it because I got pleasure out of listening to that. I mean, it was beautiful. But what I wanted to do is, after doing the high notes, I wanted to come back down here and
Yeah.
see is the chest voice still intact. I'm
Mm.
guessing it is because those are so good on top. But I may be wrong, and I always want to check it out. So just as you did just the one note on the ah, and remember, you just ease into it.
Ah.
Exactly. And down here, remember, there's no pressure at all. You just hear that ah.
Ah.
Yeah.
Ah. Ah.
And just back off a little bit more.
Ah.
And one more, you just really back off.
Ah.
Yes, and that's the F below the middle C. So you want to make sure after doing these high notes that they were actually done efficiently, even though we could hear it, you could feel it, and that your voice, your vocal cords can relax to get the low notes. I always say I used to belt opera when I sang, and I would wham those top notes, and I would lose the bottom notes before I came to my late husband. I would lose the bottom notes because I would wham those top notes out. Just, I'm gonna just really, and then the bottom note would just drop. They would just fade because the chords were overly tense in the wrong way, and then they couldn't relax to get into the bottom.
Yeah, I
That's
know the feeling.
amazing. That's beautiful. Well, thank you so much for doing this. I think I'm hoping that helped you along, along the way to figure out how to do that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Fabulous. Thanks for watching Donna Reed Talks Voice. If you have any questions for me about this episode, or if you'd like to join me on a future episode, please visit donnareedtv.com and click Contact.